On this planet, you will die. We have seen it.
I have a pretty extensive relationship with Dune. The first piece of Dune media I came into contact with was the 1984 film when I was around 5 years of age. Don't ask. Followed by Dune 2000 a few years later. I then went on to get my hands on Emperor Battle for Dune before finally getting around to reading the books in 2014. You could say that Dune has had a constant presence throughout most of my life. So it probably doesn't come as much surprise to hear me say that I was excited when I first heard that the books would be receiving a high-budget treatment with spectacular cinematography. Then, as if a sign from the great Shai-Hulud itself, Dune 2021 came out just 2 days before my 27th birthday, and I was ready for a hit of some of that spice melange. As a whole, I think the movie is pretty decent. It's got good acting, I like the cast, and the visuals are downright gorgeous, and I found it to be well paced for the most part. That said, there are some things I feel could have been stronger from an artistic standpoint, yet perhaps a little more importantly, there were a number of things that were just flat out terrible when looked at from a wider social lens, and we need to talk about those points as well. Therefore, I'll be dividing this review into 3 parts, with part 1 discussing 3 things I enjoyed about the movie, part 2 discussing 3 things I disliked, and part 3 covering 3 things that just never should have been in any movie. Of course, I have no idea how any of this will turn out. I mean, I've never really done anything like this before, so who knows? Maybe you'll get to watch me crash and burn like an ornithopter in a sandstorm. Just some Arrakis humour there. Though before we can get round to that, I just need to give a content warning for the following topics: colonialism, child sexual assault, sexual slavery, and homophobia. Also, spoiler warning, not just for the movie, but for the books as well. So you have been warned. If you like our work and appreciate the research put into each video, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon. You can also support us by liking, commenting, and sharing our work on social media like Twitter, Reddit, and Discord. And with that out of the way, let's move on to a few things I enjoyed about the movie, starting with the way in which some of these small world-building features have been taken straight from the book. Because we need to be real here. There was no way to include every little detail from the original book, as it is a fat-off tome served with its own side dish of appendix. Add to this the fact that society has become a lot more aware of certain issues than it was previously, and there was always going to be a need for stuff to be cut down, compressed, and updated for a modern film audience. However, by including little details where possible, the writers and design team can still show the audience that they too have a passion for their story. That it's not just a meaningless cash cow to be milked drier than the sands of Arrakis itself. And there's one scene in particular that really did this for me, and that was the tree scene in front of the palace. During the Atreides' journey from the spaceport to their new palace home, they had to do a flyover of Arrakis, the main city of the desert planet of Arrakis, Dune. During which my wife, Adita, remarked at the fact that there wasn't a tree in sight. That got me talking to her about just how scarce water is on the planet. Water is so tight, in fact, that the Arrakis began rioting when they heard just how many soldiers the Atreides would be bringing to their city due to fears of shortages. That was until Leto explained that he'd be building additional wind traps to cover his men's water consumption, wind traps being an in-universe building designed to draw water from the desert wind. We got talking about just how much water a tree consumes before I went on to explain how, in the book, there were rows of palm trees in front of the palace that had gone on to take on a variety of meanings. To some, it was a display of extravagance and even cruelty due to how much water they took, enough for 100 men in total. To others, they were a symbol of an abandoned dream, what they'd hoped to bring to the planet. Then there were those who viewed them with religious reverence, something to look up to and remind people that they're part of a bigger system. Sadly, much like my wife, I didn't see any trees as the Atreides approached the palace, so I thought it was just another detail that had been cut out. Which is kinda sad, you know? It was such a simple detail that really sets the tone for the planet, its culture, and its many factions that I felt kind of a shame. But it wasn't meant to be, or so I thought. Skip forward a couple of scenes, and Paul was walking along rows of palm trees when he comes across a waterer who explains to him that each tree took the water of 5 people. There were 20 trees, therefore they took the same water as 100 people in total. And it was just, yeah, loved it. I also loved the design of the waterer. He wasn't just using a garden hose, he was using a polished dish at the end of a pole to ensure as much of the water made it to the palms as possible. That specialization, that tiny detail, gave his actions more the appearance of ritual as opposed to gardening, which again speaks to the many meanings behind the trees. So every little thing about that one scene was just brilliant. It really showed that someone somewhere on the team had really clicked with the material. Now, to be fair, since I went back and checked the flyover again now that I knew the trees were there, they are visible. I just missed them as they're pretty hard to see being so small. Either way, I was really happy that this and other small details were included. It might seem insignificant, but it really helped me feel like this truly was the world of Dune. That said, I also appreciated some of the changes that were made. Which leads me on to the second thing I really enjoyed, and that was the changes made to Dr. Leah Keynes. I really hope you enjoyed this preview of the full video hosted on my personal channel, Ethel Thurston. To continue watching from where you'd reached, click the timestamp link at the top of the video description. Since it's a new channel, there's no ads, nothing, so this is the last interruption you have to worry about. I just felt like this was the best way to make some money from my work, which goes to putting food on the table, whilst also alerting you to my new channel. So yeah, be sure to head over there and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I've already got a few more things in the work as well. And if you're someone who has subscribed to my past ventures and is wondering what has happened to them, this should be my last attempt, and I'll explain why. Most of my other side projects have been very hyper-focused, meaning that when I wanted to do something new, I felt like I had to start a whole new channel. This one is as generic as it can be. It's just a channel for me to post stuff I felt the need to make in the moment. No promise, no obligations. I've just been stuck in a creative rut, and I feel that a channel that's effectively a sketchbook for me to do stuff I wouldn't do on this channel would really help that. So yeah, thanks for being patient with me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.